Ooh, uh-oh. This wasn't in the comics. I was just getting through my video about Invincible Season 3 and the morality of all the characters. Very thematical. I recommend you watch it when it's finished. Anyway, this post-credit scene completely took me by surprise. I thought we'd seen the last of Damien Darkblood, but the man seems to be discussing, well, the demon seems to be discussing an individual black of heart and means of summoning him. So I'm going to go through my best guess on the theory of which individual he is he's talking about and what means he has discovered of summoning them. By process of elimination, let's start off with the characters that definitely isn't going to be Rex, Debbie, Duplicate, Multipole, Shrinking Ray, Bulletproof Best Tiger, Shapesmith, Machine Head, Magmaniac, and the Testicle Tyrant. In the probably but less likely character category, we have Doc Seismic. Now, I'd say Doc Seismic is a potential candidate considering his power scale is now beginning to climb quite dramatically as he was able to capture all the world's heroes at the start of the season. And his Earthquake bracelets, gauntlets, whatever you want to call them, could come in handy. Are they Dark Blood worthy? I doubt it, but he's a probably candidate. Next up, we got Jesse Powerplex. He's got a very blackened heart now, considering he was blinded by all that rage. He's incredibly powerful if people attack him enough, and he's absolutely out of his mind. But Darkblood's after him. A lot of people are gonna shit on me for this suggestion, but it feels like this character's kind of been benched considering the amount of power he actually has. Now, Black Samson is a very much average superhero, and the show's only exemplifying that by cutting out his amazing power moment with Omnipotus. Now, the more this guy literally gets battered to within an inch of his life, the more powerful he suddenly becomes. And this happened in the fight with Omnipotus. Everyone was absolutely getting taken to the cleaners, and then suddenly out of nowhere, Black Samson turns into a fucking Super Saiyan and sends the guy into the realm of wind and shadows. Now, I'm not saying this is 100% the chance, but I'm saying this is a pretty wild card option, which is also rather probable considering they've done very little with this character. Even when I thought they're finally going to give him a moment at Rex's funeral, they skipped to Invincible and Adam Eve smiling and laughing that they recovered themselves. That pissed me off a little bit. I do like Samson, and they've kind of cut out a lot of his important scenes, so hopefully they give this guy some moments next season. Eve would be another cool choice, but there is one big glaring issue with her. Aside from the fact that she is basically Green Lantern plus Doctor Manhattan rolled up into one. The only thing she can't really do is affect living sentient tissue, which basically stops her from becoming godlike. So that would fall into the categories of all powerful, the world's never seen this type. However, Damien Darkblood does say it's a he, so she is my favorite character, but no, it's not her. Hooray, we got a strong contender. He pretty much fits everything Darkblood was on about. He's a he. He's a very powerful individual. He's got a pretty much well blackened heart. But I don't think it's Nolan. Because Nolan's kind of going the opposite way to his son, morality wise, in the way that Mark started off, he didn't want to kill anything or anyone. And Nolan, well, you've seen the final episode of season one. So I think their arcs are kind of doing a bit of a swap. So Nolan's heart is getting gradually lighter, whereas Mark is getting gradually darker. So I don't think Dark Blood is referring to Nolan in this instance, even though he does tick a lot of the boxes. However, I just don't think it's him. Haven't spoke at all about Damien's means of summoning anyone yet, but bear in mind that Nolan is also light years off world. So whatever Damien's plans are, which I want to get into in a minute, I don't think they have really factored in space travel, but who knows? He's an otherworldly thing, isn't he? Mr. Liu is also powerful. His powers are otherworldly, and he has an incredibly blackened heart. It could be him, but I've got a stronger contender in mind. This is another big hear me out, but I know he's in the picture, but I'm not talking about Cecil, I'm on about Robot. Robot starts out as, well, what is consent? when he steals Rex's DNA, and at the end he really weirdly takes his name at his funeral. I'm glad I'm not the only one that thought that was really weird. Anyway, for now, Rex is sorry, Rudy, robot is pretty pure of heart, sort of. Despite him very much stealing Rex's identity, DNA, and sorry, he's weird. It does take him a good 1,000 years in a flaxen dimension before all that madness starts to manifest into, well, what he becomes in later seasons. And what that is basically the ruler of Earth. This man becomes powerful enough to conquer Viltrumites and all the world's heroes at once. Is very much just becomes Batman on steroids. But as for right now, I don't think Darkblood has the ability to see the future. So I don't think he's referring to Robot. Guess that leads me to Cecil. Cecil, I think, is the strongest contender for this. This man has been through everything and more. And his morality, as he describes it himself, is likes to keep things grey. Cecil and Darkblood have extreme beef, as Cecil was the one that sent Darkblood back to hell to begin with. Now, Damien would definitely be surprised by this level of power, as what Cecil did was he uncovered the book that was capable of sending him back and pieced it back together using AI technology. This would be power to Damien, like showing someone from the Middle Ages a belt fed machine gun or a computer. To him, this is probably the most powerful thing he's ever seen. Also, let's think about why Cecil made this choice. Cecil made the choice to send Darkblood back to hell because he'd figured out that Nolan had killed the Guardians. Now, if you think of this in the realms of good and evil, black and white, that would make you think that Cecil is box tick bad guy. But when you think of the reasons why Cecil made that choice, it was to protect the betterment of the planet. If he came straight out and said, Nolan, I know you killed them, you're going to jail, etc., what would Nolan immediately do? Like, genuinely, what could Cecil realistically do to stop Omni Man? There's absolutely nothing. So, Damien flapping his gums about Nolan being the killer and expecting Cecil to do something about it is downright insane. So, Cecil in that moment acted correctly, but to Damien, that would have been an incredibly evil act. Stated further by the fact that he believes that there's a worse place than hell waiting for Cecil. On power scaling wise, I believe that Cecil in fact has infinite potential, considering that as the story is going on, his arsenal is getting bigger and bigger and better. When it just started out, he had the teleporters, he had the hammer that he dropped on Omni-Man, and he had the world's heroes. Now, with D.A. Sinclair in tow, he has now got the Reanimen and soon to be Reanimen Viltrumites from the remnants of the Invincible War. I also think there's more going on in the background than we actually see. So, judging by the powers that the villains have brought forward in this season alone, we have the weapons that the Mauler twins brought to the table, and that was a gun that basically took out a hero's nervous system, rendering them useless. We had the creatures that Doc Seismic brought in, and the poison of them crippled Invincible. We have the signal that took out Mark's equilibrium, his hearing. We have Conquest Body. We have, as I mentioned him earlier, we've got Doc Seismic's gauntlets. Now, they could be incredibly handy if repurposed and put to other use, despite the concussion they give the user every time. He did also steal that chip from Machine Head in the beginning, which gave the user a lot of information about quantum probabilities. I'm too stupid to understand what those things are. That's not to mention the new heroes he has, like Knockout, Tech Jacket, Kid Thor, etc. I mean, hell, he could go whole hog and revive Hail Mary with some Reanimen ship powers. Oh, good God, don't think about that. In conclusion, I would say Cecil is our strongest competitor as of now, due to the fact is that his power level is going to keep increasing and increasing due to his intellect and his ability to repurpose people for the greater good. I believe Darkblood is discussing him. Darkheart, powerful, and means of summoning. The next champion we have for Darkblood would be the man himself, Lonely Negan Conquest. Now, oh my god, why is Alexa talking to me now? Yes, thank you, Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. I think these are pretty obviously improvised. Anyway, so Con- Conquest is he's just rocked up out of nowhere, and he's also extremely strong, like the world's never seen before. He also has the blackest heart the world's never seen before. So yeah, like the contender, and this could be, you know, how Conquest himself breaks out of Cecil's imprisonment as he heals. I say that's a good theory moving forward. That could be how he does it, or maybe Conquest just brute forces his way out. However, I'm going to say, like the candidate, but still Cecil's in the running for who Darkblood's describing. Next up, we got Angstrom. Now, Angstrom's off world. He's in another dimension. Whether or not Damien's demon powers can get him remains to be seen. Now, when Damien was mentioning power, he never outright said it was brute force. He just said power. Now, Angstrom does have, let's be real, a pretty fucking good power. I mean, the guy can dimension hop, and he's built a ton of connections through doing such a thing. If Damien's talking about him, then oh god, help us all. But let's be real here. He's talking about Mark. This is all going to be a setup for Mark gets dragged to hell episode, and all manner of stuff happens there, and he has to fight this dark one. I really hope they don't go down that route, and if they do, I put my faith into the Invincible writers to give a good story and a good conclusion. I'm hoping that a bit of subversion and they pick Cecil, but I'm willing to bet they're going to say Mark due to the amount of power he now has. And after his victory over Conquest, that's going to be a big thing. If Damien ends up being the big bad of season 4, I'm cool with that. I'm also fine with Dinosaurus making an appearance, or if Damien has something to do with the beginnings of Dinosaurus. But I'm just going to say what I 100% believe the writers are going to do is they're going to put Mark into that position. Considering Mark is now incredibly powerful after training with Cecil and dismantling Conquest and the final moments, even though he was helped, he still won in the end. I don't give a fuck, fight me. There's also the case of his morality skewing in the opposite direction, being a bit more Viltrumite than he was, and his heart is now hardening a lot. In his last conversation he has with Oliver, he was discussing about killing Angstrom or killing the Mauler twins was the right thing to do, as they're just going to escape and kill more people. So I believe his heart is on the blackening side of life, and the anti-Atom Eve argument is that Invincible is very much male, so that's a he. Okay, cool. Finally got around to all the likely people I think it is and the unlikely, so let's talk about means. Alright, might be reading too heavily into this, but okay. Damien didn't say anything about him entering Surface World. He just said means of bringing the individual he was discussing back. So this wouldn't be a case of reverse engineering his book. I think this would actually belong to something to do with Darkwing. Mainly his ability to jump into the Shadow Realm. Now, during the Invincible War, Darkwing 2 ended up taking an Invincible variant into the Shadowverse with him, and he didn't see them coming back out. So, if anything, considering this is a recent event, I would imagine Darkblood is going to use something to do with Darkwing 2 and his ability to jump in and out the Shadowverse. Now, Darkwing has said that he himself doesn't stay too long in the Shadowverse and is incredibly afraid of it. So maybe there's something to do with that and a portal into hell. So is Darkblood going to end up teaming up with Darkwing 2 to bring Invincible into hell and give Darkwing an ability to get out of the Shadowverse? I mean, it's a possibility. but I can't see Darkwing 2 doing something like that to Invincible. And I know he was a villain for a short period of time, but after being reformed, I don't see that happening. I can maybe see him working with Darkblood for a short period of time to get out of it, but I can't see him deliberately betraying Invincible. However, I can see Darkblood using him as a means to an end. Mr. Liu is also a contender with the means of life, considering the power of his dragon is very otherworldly. Now, they could potentially tie something in with that. I think it would be a pretty cool story and a way to bring this character back, as I just love how mental he is. Another mean would be Angstrom Levy. Now he's pretty tied up with the creator things and their new plan for building their world and everything else that goes into it. If these two tie in together, I think that would be a pretty cool thing moving forward. Okay, on the spirit of using some analysis, I'm going to say that I would believe it's down to either Invincible or Cecil would be the individuals that Darkblood's discussing, and the means in which he plans on getting them to hell would have something to do with Darkwing and the Shadowverse. This event isn't in the comics either, so comic readers and show enjoyers are also going to be scratching their heads when it comes to this. And I don't know how much the Shadowverse has been explored, but I would argue it's probably the closest thing we're going to have to a kind of limbo or dimension that's close to hell. So I think this is going to be Darkblood's way of clawing someone back, would be through Darkwing 2. All right, sound. Well, I had quite a lot of fun discussing this theory, and I'm sure there's going to be plenty others. And if my video gets about, what, 4 views, if whoever's watching could stick their theory down there, I'd much appreciate that. Or don't. Just try not to be a twat about it. Anyway, peace.